in any of the papers, but I don't know. I found other examples which I replaced. Is that bad, good, or because there was exactly no phrasal verb used, at least in the paper I decided to use for the homework?
Well, you could find you could find any source, and you will have to locate the phrasal verb and replace it. Just make sure that you cite your source as per IEEE.
Yes, it says, but I mean, in the paper, the authors didn't use any phrasal verb.
The thing is that you don't have to use one and only paper for your task. So you can look for as many papers as you want. So
until we find one
until you locate the phrasal verb. Exactly.
Okay, thanks for telling me now.
Right.
Okay.
Any other questions?
One question I have. One question.
Go ahead.
So basically, apart from filling in a table, after the table, we need to list all the sources.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I missed that, but I will do it today.
Yeah, because I need to have the information there that you really use the actual source.
Okay.
Any other questions?
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Regarding referencing. For example, I test a situation like the paper is a part of like conference folder for a conference like journal. So the number of pages of the paper starts from like 144 to 150. So when we want to refer to the page number, we refer to the page number of the paper or we refer the page number that is mentioned in the paper, like 140 to 43.
Well, right. It depends. It depends on what you're referring to. If you're referring to a specific sentence, then it will be just one page. But if you're referring to the article in general within the conference preceding book, I understand you'll have to provide the article where the page where the article begins and the page where the article ends, like a range, the beginning of the range and the end of the range.
Yeah. For example, I had a reference. It was a paper from journal, and the pages of this paper takes place between like 441 to 450, for example. But the number of the pages of this paper are starting from 1, 2, 3, 4. So in this situation, I have to add this, like my sentence. I took the sentence from the page number 4. So I have to like sum the 441 and plus 4, or I have only to mention the number is written in this page. Right?
Actually, you could provide the both of the page numbers, and you could use brackets.
So it's not a big deal.
Excuse me?
It's not a big deal. We can use here for both situations.
Yeah, actually, you have to provide both page numbers and use brackets.
Another question was what's the difference between wordiness and redundancy? I think they were the same.
Right. So the difference between wordiness and redundancy. So wordiness is they're very close. Basically, for your purposes and for your context, it's basically not really important to differentiate between wordiness and redundancy. It's vital for you to avoid those. But once we're speaking about redundancy, it's like repeating, like linguistically repeating things that have already been said. Okay. And wordiness is using linguistic elements that can be dropped altogether, despite of the fact that those linguistic elements do not convey the same meaning. Like, for example, if you take the phrase "in order to," now that part "in order" would be wordy. Okay, and if we speak about redundancy, the example of redundancy, there'll be future plans. So the phrase "future plans" consists of two words, and both words mean the same. So this is the example of redundancy.
The homework I have misunderstanding. I consider the "in order to" is a redundancy, and I consider the first and the foremost as wordiness.
Well, basically, as I said, for your context, it's not a big deal. I mean, the big deal is that you avoid those. I mean, you guys are not linguists, so you're not supposed to go deep into definitions, so that would be okay.
Okay, thank you.
Right. What other questions have you got?
Can I ask a question, please?
Sure.
It's something related to what I asked previously. You know, Professor, in the syllabus, I've checked the late submission policy, and it says there that there are two scenarios. One of them is that we have to get special permission, like to submit late, if we have special circumstances. And the other one, that without the approval, if we submit without the approval, there are 48 hours whereby we can submit with 25% penalty. Does it still work, this rule?
It does, but it will only be applied to your graded assignments. And the home assignment that you're doing right now is non-graded. It's only time of submission. So this policy would not be applied to your home assignments. As I said, those home assignments, they will not be up for the retake.
Okay, so mostly for the homework assignments, it's like if we submit, we get the full grade, basically, right?
You don't get a grade. You get your time of submission. If you submit your home assignment in time, you will get feedback. Okay. But if you blow the deadline, you're not getting any feedback.
Okay, I understand. And our homework submissions are graded, right? Like, I mean, in terms of binary, right? If it's timely or not.
Yeah, it's basically pass or fail. So just like that.
Okay,
It's binary, yes.
Thank you.
What other questions have you got?
I have a small question about the. Sorry, yes, I have a small question, but it's just I thought it actually was a typo or some mistake in the slides, but I just want to clear things up because I actually don't know what it is. Well, can I share my screen just a second to point out what I mean? Just a second. Here it is. For example. Wait a second. Can you guys see my screen?
I can.
Okay. Well, yes. Here is exactly my question. For example, in many of the examples, right after the name of the paper or between these quotation marks, here there's a comma actually inside of the quotation marks. And at the beginning, I thought it was a typo, for example, but then I came to realize that it is not, because almost everything is that. Could you please comment on this? Because, I mean, is that the correct way that the comma should be inside of the quotation marks and not afterwards?
I don't really remember. Let me check.
Okay.
Because basically you don't remember small things like that. What you do is you go to the document, you go to the IEEE reference document, and you check you check what it says. Let's see, just a second. Let me share my screen with you guys. Can you guys see my screen?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so this is like the primary document for us, IEEE reference guide. Okay, and I understand okay, so what type of source we're talking about? Book?
In this case, yes, actually, it could be any of them. It could
Any
be
of them,
a
okay.
referencing book or a journal or an article.
Right, let's take a look at books. Okay, so you got the title and you got comma
Yes.
inside the quotation mark.
Yes.
Okay, let's move on. Let's take a look at the example. See, the title and the comma is inside the quotation mark. Okay.
Yep.
So let's check out periodicals. Periodicals. Yeah, that's the general basic format. So that's the title and the comma is inside the quotation mark.
Mm-hmm.
So it is not a typo or anything. It should be inside the quotation mark.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you.
Did I answer your question?
Yes, you did. Thank you.
Okay, cool. So what other questions have you got?
Professor, I have a question.
Yes, go ahead.
Also, I joined after, I guess, when Karam was asking. So I'm not sure if I'm here or on the attendance list or not.
Right,
so, yeah, I'm here.
Your attendance. So is the question about?
Yeah, I have a question for the using online tools or tools in general for citation. To be honest, this is the way that I did in my previous project. I don't know if it's like preferred or not, because also I did it for the homework.
Yeah, as I have already told everybody, normal people do not do IEEE referencing by hand. Okay, as a matter of fact, no referencing is done by hand. So the reason I'm asking you to do it by hand is for you to understand the principle and for you to be able to see if something goes wrong with the reference generation tools, because sometimes it does. Okay, reference generation tools or like LaTeX or the function in the overlift, they sometimes mess up like the first and the last name of the writer, or the title of the journal and the title of the article. So what you need to, I mean, the reason why I'm giving you those exercises is for you to be able to check your automatically generated references. So basically, I'm not requiring you to do all the referencing completely by hand. Okay, you can generate those referencing, but make sure to check those against that document IEEE reference guide, because this is like the primary source. Another reason for that is that IEEE is quite sloppy about their requirements. Okay, and there are different documents on IEEE referencing with contradicting formats. Okay, actually last year we talked a lot with IEEE about that. Okay, and like we had to discuss every single small detail. So therefore different generating tool, I mean the pattern introduced into those generating tools can also contain minor errors. Okay, and you should be able to see those errors once generated. So this is how it goes. Did I answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, what other questions have you got?
Well, can you recommend a tool for us to use? Since I checked Google Scholar, for example, and mostly they don't have IEEE style references. They have 5 other, but like no try. And for Googling, I kind of, all the tools were questionable.
Yeah, they'll be hard for me. You know, I told you that no normal people do that by hand. Actually, I do that by hand. So I guess I'm not very normal in that aspect.
Yeah.
But, you know, Hamza?
I can recommend this cite this form, and there is multiple also cases that you can use it. Yeah, actually I'm using it.
So did you check it against that IEEE reference guide?
Maybe. I'm not sure, to be honest.
Yeah, see, that's the trouble. So once you're using the generating tool, okay, you just relax and you're like 100% sure that your referencing is okay. But this is not always the case. Okay, so you should always manually check the generated reference. So once you're using the tool, please double check it against that official document.
Understood.
Right. And sorry, Sultan.
It's okay. Thanks.
I have a question regarding
Go ahead.
this idea that alphabetically sorted is necessary for the IEEE, or some actually some article suggest that your reference should be alphabetically sorted in the last name.
Well, you don't really need to. Correct me if I understand you correct. What was the question about? If you have to alphabetically sort your references in the reference list, is that what you're asking?
Yeah, your reference list.
No, for IEEE, they should not be alphabetical sorting. The sorting will be in the order of appearance within your text. So with other referencing styles like APA, for example, there is such a requirement. But with IEEE, there is no such a thing. You're basically you list your sources in the order they appear in your text. So it's you can treat your references as footnotes in a way. So was I able to explain to answer your question?
Thank you.
Right. What other questions have you got?
Do we ever cite the references in accordance with their importance? For example, if some sources are like primary and we use them a lot and they are important for our work.
Not really. The only thing that you go by is the order of appearance. So just you number your sources in the order they appear in your text. That's it, end of story. In this aspect, IEEE is way simpler as compared to APA or MLA, for example.
Got it, thanks.
Okay, what other questions have you got? Okay. No questions. Right. So the plan for today was to speak about paraphrasing and summarizing. But since we had those troubles in the beginning of the class, let me ask you this: did anybody manage to stop reading the presentation? Okay. So I can safely start from the beginning. So the reason that we talk about paraphrasing and summarizing is to avoid plagiarism. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Yes. So we're going to talk about paraphrasing and summarizing. Let's start with paraphrasing. First of all, the plan. Within the paraphrasing part, we'll talk about the definition of paraphrasing. We'll discuss the situations where you would have to resort to paraphrase. We'll compare paraphrasing and quoting, direct quotations, and we'll take a look at 6 steps to effective paraphrasing. Because you know, paraphrasing is of paramount importance for you to avoid plagiarism, and not everybody finds that process easy. Therefore, those 6 steps would be helping you. We'll talk about shared language. I will explain the concept of shared language. I will give you some paraphrasing tips and paraphrasing no-nos. And we'll talk about reporting words. And I will provide you with patterns to use reporting words for your paraphrasing. So let's start with the paraphrase. Could you guys tell me what is paraphrasing?
Paraphrasing is telling the information in different words and try to make the word in just the sentence with different word but with the same meaning.
Totally. It's when you say the same but in different words. As simple as that. Now, when do you paraphrase? So when do you paraphrase? Like you got quotes, you got paraphrasing. When do you use quotes? When do you paraphrase?
I think quotes we use only for kind of short phrases, and where we need it specifically to use the same words. Maybe it's like a term or something like that. But in all other cases, we generally use paraphrasing to not repeat the same words and avoid plagiarism.
Right. Basically, if you're sure that you can express some idea more clearly or in a shorter way as compared to the original, you can paraphrase, because not all writers, not all authors have very clear and concise writing. So that's number one. And number two, well, if you only want to convey the meaning but not the specific form. Right, let's compare paraphrasing and quoting. Basically, you should not resort to quoting too much because, if you do, your research, your writing would be perceived as secondary. And paraphrasing is going to help you with that. Now, the best part of paraphrasing is that it shows that you totally understand the text. While when you use a quote, it does not really show that you really into the ideas described in this text. Right. Let's take a look at the 6 steps that you could go through when you paraphrase. First of all, you have to read the original several times to make sure that you understand it. Then you have to write down key concepts in shared language. We'll talk about shared language very soon. I will explain what I mean by shared language. Then you'll have to look away from the original and write down your version. Then you have to look back at the original version and compare your version with the original. And you'll have to change phrases that are still too similar. And then naturally you'll have to add the reporting verbs and citations, in-text citations as per IEEE. Now, let's take a look at the shared language. Now, what do I mean by shared language? Shared language is words and phrases that you cannot say in any other way. Those are proper nouns. Actually, you cannot paraphrase names like George Washington or whatever. Okay, some technical terms. Once you're writing about cybersecurity, you're writing about cybersecurity. You cannot really replace it with anything else. Dates and figures, I understand those things do not need any explanation. And finally, common nouns that are difficult to reward. Those common nouns are basically the things that you write about. So this is the shared language, or in other words, those are key concepts. An important thing is that you can change. I mean, you cannot change. You have to have that shared language, but you can change the grammatical form of that shared language to keep the original meaning, but to go farther away from the original text. Take a look at the example. The original is, she won the election because of her business career. Now the shared language is election, okay? In the original, you got a noun, okay? But you can keep the same meaning and change the part of speech into a participle, into a verbal form. Okay, so you're changing the grammatical form. Her background in business is the reason she was elected. Now this is a paraphrase, and this has got the same meaning, but the structure is completely different. Now let's take a detailed look at every step, at every paraphrasing step. So the first step is reading the original several times to make sure that you understand it. Now that is the original. Only 9% of the students who work part-time earn sufficient income to support themselves. Now the next one is writing down shared language. Basically, shared language is the key concepts. Okay, so the shared language for this statement would be 9%, which is a numeral. Okay, part-time, students, and probably income. Now your next step would be to write the version, your own version, without looking at the original. Suppose this is my version. All the students who work part-time, 9% make enough money to earn a living. Now this is stage 3, step 3, and now I have to compare my first draft and the original. Take a look. If you take a look at the original, and if you take a look at the paraphrase draft, you will see that they've got more than 3 words, more than 3 consecutive words borrowed verbatim. They're shown in orange. So see, the students who work part-time. Okay, generally you're not supposed to be borrowing more than 3 words in a row. Okay, here you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 words borrowed. Therefore, you have to do something with that who work part-time thing. Okay, so you have to change that. Take a look at the updated version. Okay. So we're changing the part of speech. So part-time in the original is an adverbial phrase, and part-time in the paraphrase is an adjective. And also we replace the verb work with a noun job. Now what you have is, of all these students with part-time jobs, just 9% make enough money to earn a living. And if you compare the original and the paraphrase, you will see words students 9% and part-time, which are repeated verbatim. And we've got about the last step, which is citing, making in-text citation as per IEEE, and adding reporting verbs. Well, strictly speaking, what I have added here is not a reporting verb, it's a reporting phrase, but still you get the idea. So according to, and then I add the number of the source. Actually, there are 2 ways of handling that. You could specify the name of the writer, like according to John's, and then provide the number in square brackets, or you could go the way I did in the example. Now this is the paraphrase of the original. According to source 1, of all the students with part-time jobs, just 9% make enough money to earn a living. Now this is the basic procedure for paraphrasing. Please ask me questions. Right, let's move. Yeah, go ahead.
I have.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, the final sentence seems to be a bit hard according to the previous lesson. I mean, we had to identify the actors first and so on. What do you think about that?
Totally. I mean, once you've paraphrased, okay, once you make sure that your sentence is completely different from the original, you could continue with the style. You will have to make your sentence more effective in terms of style. So it's like staged process. So what we're concentrating on here is that the paraphrase would be completely different in form as compared to the original. But totally, you're totally right. You're totally right. This sentence is not effective in terms of style.
Okay, thank you.
Right. What other questions have you got? All right, let's continue. Some tips that could help you paraphrase. First of all, synonyms. Once you've identified shared language, try to find synonyms, and you can use a thesaurus for that. Next one, it is highly recommended that you use reporting verbs. Okay, using reporting verbs is not mandatory, but it will give like an extra specific and professional touch to your writing. Well, I've already mentioned about keeping the shared language. Changing the sentence structure. You will have to change the sentence structure. Now, the most popular advice here is to change the sentence from active voice into passive voice. But you might want to treat that with you might want to be cautious about that, because we have mentioned that passive voice is not as effective as compared to active voice. So try to avoid passive when you change the sentence structure. So a part of changing the sentence structure is starting your first sentence at a different point. You might want to start your sentence in the end of the original. And another useful technique is to break the original into two separate sentences. Like if you've got a complex or compound sentence in the original, you can make two simple sentences in your paraphrase. Any questions on those tips? Okay, let's move on. Now, the absolute no-nos of paraphrasing. Number one, you cannot change the ideas in the original. You have to keep the original ideas. Number two, you cannot change the verb tense of the original. Because if you think about that, that would be changing the ideas of the original text. Now, once your original is in present perfect, for example, your paraphrase should also be in present perfect or in past simple. And the biggest no-no is using more than 3 words in a row from the original. That would often be considered as plagiarism. Now, let's speak about reporting verbs. As I have already said, reporting verbs are not mandatory. You can have a paraphrase without a reporting verb, but using reporting verb makes your writing better. And it's very useful to introduce the in-text citations into your text. I'm going to speak about 3 patterns of using different reporting verbs. Now, this is pattern 1. You've got a list of different words, different verbs actually, that you can use to report what the original said. And if you take a look at the text in red, you will see the structure of the pattern. So you start with the writer, then you choose a reporting verb from the list, from the column, you add that, and then you add a clause. Take a look at the example. So researchers have demonstrated that the food additive is harmful to children. So here you do not have to specify the actual name of the writers, especially if there are a lot of them. You can go with researchers. So the writer here is researchers. The reporting verb here is demonstrate. You can see that it is highlighted in red in the column. Then you add that and the clause. Subject is food additive, and the verb is. Now this is pattern 1. Take a look at pattern 2. With pattern 2 is very similar, but you use the word somebody and something plus the preposition for. Take a look at the example. Marx actually praised the United States for its freedom, which was alien to Europe in the 1800s. Once again, when you paraphrase, do not forget about the in-text citation number as per IEEE. So pattern 2 is especially effective when you want to describe somebody's position in some area. And the last one is pattern 3. You got your writer, your reporting verb, your somebody or something, and the preposition as. Take a look at the example. Although Friedman and Garibaldi present their data as conclusive, they fail to account for all the inconsistencies among the test subjects. So as you can see, you got 2 writers, Friedman and Garibaldi. Your reporting verb is present. It is also highlighted in the table above. And your somebody or something is data. Okay, and then you got as plus a choice of 3 parts of speech. It can be either a noun, a gerund, or an adjective. Here, you've got an adjective. Please ask me some questions about the 3 patterns.
Can we use the number inside brackets as subject?
I would not recommend that because you know, basically linguistically and psychologically your reader would want a word for a subject. What I would go with is this pattern, like you write the name of the writer and then you add the in-text citation in brackets. That will be more effective. Please ask me some more questions on the patterns.
Excuse me, regarding the example, this example is in the present tense, while the previous one was in like present perfect.
Yep.
So which tense we should use, or it depends?
The thing is that with these examples, you do not see the originals. All right, and you're supposed to keep the tense of the original. Did that answer your question?
In this example, we know the original reference, so we use like present tense.
Yeah, you'll have to take my word for it. Well, actually, those are not actual paraphrase. Those are just the examples to illustrate the patterns. But when you actually paraphrase, you have to match the tense with the original. Because if you change the tense,
yeah.
right?
No, my question
Was
the difference between this example and the previous one, the pattern 2 or pattern 1 was like phrase, okay, or the previous one, pattern 1 was has demonstrated.
Yep.
So here we use present perfect, while in the pattern 3 we use the present perfect, the present simple. So while here we can use, I think we can use present simple as well.
It depends. It depends on your focus. With pattern 1, with example in pattern 1, you're concentrating on the result they have demonstrated. Okay. Now with pattern 3, you concentrate on their opinion. Okay, so with the example Friedman and Garibaldi, they believe that their data is conclusive, and therefore you're using present simple. Now with pattern 2, you're referring to the person who does not live anymore, and you focus on the beliefs that that person had when he was alive. Therefore, you're using past simple.
But for example, for pattern 1, the example of pattern 1, we can use present, we can use researcher present the food, or
you could, yes, you could.
Or,
go ahead.
Like researchers, we can say researchers emphasize or emphasize that the food additive is harmful for children. Here we use the present tense.
Yeah, but you will have to change the reporting verbs for that. Like researchers believe that the food additive is harmful to children.
So it depends on the verb we use.
It depends on the context too. Right. So you use present perfect for results. You use present simple for opinions, and you use past simple for something that has already passed, for something that passed, for something that is in the past. Okay. What other questions have you got?
Professor, I have a question. I quite still don't see the difference between the pattern 1 and pattern 3. For example, you said that in pattern, for pattern 1, for pattern 2, we are mainly interested in the position of the argument of the author in pattern 2. But in pattern 1 and 3, I still cannot see entirely the difference. What are we actually what are we actually trying to exhibit? The idea or the actions of somebody in the pattern 1, and in the pattern 3 I have the same question.
See, the trouble is that with pattern 2, we can say that pattern 2 is mainly used to demonstrate, to show the opinion of the writer. But with pattern 1, we cannot really say that pattern 1 is generally used for opinions, because pattern 1 can be also used for results. So pattern 1 in a way is more diverse as compared to pattern 2. And the same is for pattern 3. So basically, you cannot say that pattern 3 is used for one specific purpose. It's rather diverse.
So okay, so what is the difference then between the first and the third pattern?
The difference between pattern 1 and pattern 3 is generally the structure. We're concentrating on the structure here. Okay, so the ultimate purpose is to go as far away from original linguistically as possible. So as you would not be accused of plagiarism. So therefore, you should have the pool of different patterns to ensure that change, that going away from the original. So the basic reason for those patterns is providing different structures that are different from the original. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, more or less, yes.
Okay. Any other questions on the patterns? Right. So we've discussed those patterns. Let's take a look at the variations. You got 3 patterns, and there are 5 variations for, I mean, those variations can be used with each of the above 3 patterns. So variation number 1, you got your writer, you got ads, then the source, then you can add any of the above 3 patterns here and the information that you're actually paraphrasing for. So here you've got a variation of pattern 1. Researchers at the Center for Disease Control found that the virus was highly contagious among laboratory rats. So we can see that this is pattern 1 because you've got the writer, the reporting verb, and that makes it pattern 1. Now, take a look at pattern 3 variation. Donnie Chan, as the Asian Police Alliance, describes drug traffickers as the greatest threat to public safety due to their massive arsenal of weapons and the increasing willingness to use them. So you can definitely say that this is pattern 3 because you've got the reporting verb and as. Now, the distinctive feature of this variation is the use of where, is the use of place of the organization. Now, this is the variation that can help you make your text more diverse. Once again, we're speaking about structures. Let's take a look at the next one. Once again, every pattern can be inserted into a variation to produce a new structure. Now take a look at the pattern 3 variation. In a report issued by the World Bank, the Subcommittee on Trade viewed the most growth as encouraging despite being well below projections. You can see that this is pattern 3 because you've got the reporting verb and as, okay? But you've got the phrase about the report and the source added to that. Take a look at the same variation for pattern 2. And of course, the preposition has also been changed. In a report issued from the University of Middle Florida, the researchers blamed food companies for the sudden increase in grocery prices. Once again, well, it's not once again, actually, you don't have to remember all those patterns. You can just use them for references when you write, when you want to paraphrase something. Now, your next pattern is this. You add a year and a source. And then you can use any of the 3 patterns within this variation. Take a look at pattern 1 variation. A 2004 Harvard study suggests that drinking coffee may indeed have health benefits. You can see that this is pattern 1, since you got your reporting verb and that, which introduces the clause. Take a look at pattern 2 variation. 2019 British Commission report criticized city officials for. You can see that this is pattern 4, since you got the reporting verb and for plus a gerund. Check out the last but 1. According to. This is probably the easiest one. Okay. According to something, something happens. According to somebody, something happens. This is probably the easiest one. And the last one is this. You've got as, you've got the writer, reporting verb, and comma, and then you just have the information. Now, I have to say that the last variation can only be used with pattern 1. So as Johnson argues, the research conclusion should be viewed cautiously due to the small number of subjects tested. Please ask me questions. Okay. I would like to discourage you from using very simple words like say or state, because once you start using that, you will be inclined to overuse those words. So it's much better to choose something which describes the writer's position more accurately. Compare those two examples. In the first one, the Asian Police Alliance says the rise in drug trafficking in Asia is because, but in the second example, the Asian Police Alliance blames the rise in drug trafficking in Asia on the pop culture. Now, if you use a more efficient reporting verb, it would help you making your text shorter and more concise. So instead of say and then explain, you just use the word, which generates better text. Right. How about this one? I think I'm going to give you 10 minutes. No, not 10 minutes. We don't have 10 minutes. 5 minutes. Try to paraphrase that using the techniques that I provided to you. You can use the presentation PDF for all the patterns and all the pattern variations from Moodle. So follow the 6 steps and try to paraphrase this statement. Do you understand the task?
Yes.
Okay, please work individually. We'll discuss it in 5 minutes. You can actually follow the link. You don't have to think about style for now. Just try to go as far away from the original as possible. You've got 1 minute left. Okay, your time is up. And I'm showing you the paraphrase. Please take a look. First of all, you've got your paraphrase starting with the reporting verb variation according to Roos and Kang. If you follow the link, you would see that Roos and Kang are the people who wrote the article. Number 2, you will see that the paraphrase actually starts at the end of the original. Okay, so the sentence structure is reversed. Okay, the next thing that you could see is that instead of 1 sentence in the original, you got 2 sentences as a paraphrase. Okay, and also you would see that synonyms are used to replace some of the shared language. For example, in the original, you've got exposed a critical turning point. Okay. And in the paraphrase, you've got made it apparent. In the original, you've got power. In the paraphrase, you've got immense influence to replace that. In the original, you got outpace. And in the paraphrase, you've got rapidly eclipse. So as you can see, the meaning is the same, but the structure is completely different. Please ask me questions.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
This idea of splitting the phrase or the text into different sentences, is it kind of like advisable, or it's just for special cases or something like that? What would you suggest that we do in some cases?
I would say it is advisable. Take a look at the original. You will see that the original sentence is quite long. So the original sentence is a, what is it? It's a compound and complex sentence. Like it consists of one major clause and the two subordinate clauses. Okay, now you can safely cut it into several sentences, and those paraphrase sentences would have simpler structure. Okay, so it's like killing 2 birds with 1 stone. Number 1, you're getting the original paraphrase, and number 2, you've got simpler sentences, and simpler is always better.
But how far can we go? Because I think as you add more sentences, the reader might lose trail of what you want to convey or say.
Yeah, I totally agree. It can be tricky. You have to be really careful not to make your sentences overcomplicated. So go simpler. Make the paraphrased sentences simpler. All right. Did I answer your question?
Yes, you answered it. Thank you.
All right. Please ask me some more questions. Yeah, I got a version from Nur Sultan in the chat. Seems to be okay, but the thing is that Nur Sultan's version lacks in-text citation and reporting verbs. Just make sure that you're not forgetting about in-text citation and reporting verbs.
Got it. Thank you.
Right. Okay. Unfortunately, I do not have time. I mean, I don't have enough time for summarizing. Basically, summarizing follows the same pattern as paraphrasing. The only difference between paraphrasing and summarizing is that summarizing is applied to the whole text, like to the whole article or book. Okay, and when you summarize, you make the original shorter. With paraphrasing, okay, you stay within practically the same length, but with summarizing, you only include the most essential ideas. So you might think about summarizing as about paraphrasing and abridging the original, only preserving the most important ideas. Other than that, it's very close to paraphrasing. Now, let's discuss your home task. Your home task is on Moodle. Let me just open and explain it to you to make sure that you understand it all right. There you go. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yes.
Now, this is your home assignment for the next Monday. Okay. So you'll have to find any article within your research field. You'll have to summarize it. You will have to provide the summary for this article into the table. Please follow the 6 steps for the summary from the presentation. The presentation is in Moodle. That's number 1. And number 2, you'll have to take 8 statements from that same article, okay? And you'll have to paraphrase them using different patterns from the presentation. For every statement, a pattern for you to use is specified. Please do not forget to include the original statement. And please do not forget to provide the in-text citation for the original article. Now, the deadline for this task is the beginning of the next class on Monday, and you will have to submit this assignment through Moodle. This is not a graded task. This is a timely submission. You will only get feedback, but you will not get grades. Please ask me questions.
Professor, I have one question.
Go ahead.
What should be the length of article summary? Like it's just 100
Totally
words?
up to you. It's totally up to you.
Okay.
Right. Just make sure it's within your research field, within the field that you're interested in.
Okay.
And don't forget to provide IEEE referencing.
Yes.
What other questions have you got? Right. Okay. So this is your home assignment for the next Monday. Now, for this Thursday, it's academic vocabulary 2. So you will have to learn academic glossary, academic vocabulary from glossary 2, and you will have a quiz this Thursday. In the beginning of the class, you will have a 10-minute quiz. And also you'll have to do academic vocabulary 2 exercises and provide those through, submit those through the Moodle. Once again, those exercises will be timeless submission. They will not be graded. I just want to make sure that you do the exercises for us to be able to discuss those in class. Please ask me questions about the Thursday task.
Excuse me, the quiz in the model.
Excuse me?
The quiz we have in our model.
Yeah,
for Thursday.
The quiz for Thursday, the link for the Thursday quiz is already in the Moodle, but it will not be open until the beginning of the class.
Okay.
I will tell you specifically, during the class, I will tell you specifically when the quiz is open. Please ask me some other questions.
I have a question. The glossary that we are supposed to know for the next test is already on the Moodle, right?
It's on Moodle. It's with class 2. Please go to the assignments. There are 2 files. One is the academic glossary 2, and the other is the
academic writing style editing practice.
Excuse me?
Yeah, I see 2 links right now. The first one is academic writing style editing practice.
Right. Let me share my screen with you now.
Oh, thank you.
Can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
All right. Now let's see. So academic writing style editing practice, this is not the thing that you need right now. What you need right now is this, organizing your writing exercise, okay? You click on it, all right? You got 2 files attached. Now this is the exercise that you have to do by Thursday, and this is the vocabulary that you have to know by Thursday.
Okay.
And the submission deadline is here.
Thank you very much. The quiz is going to be exactly based on those 2 files. Well, I seen the last time. Thank you very much.
Totally. We're going to start with the exercises in the beginning of the class, and after we discuss the exercise, I will open the quiz for you. Please ask me some other questions. Okay, once you don't have questions, I understand that'll be all for today. Thank you, and we'll see you Thursday. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye, guys.
Thank you.